So after graduating from law school, I was hired as a deputy district attorney, and I did that for about 3.5 or 4 years. And during that time, we started noticing that our older son was struggling in school and having some social conflicts with other kids, and his teacher had some concerns as well. So we had him assessed by the school district, and we went through a lot of doctor's appointments, and come to find out he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD and Tourette syndrome. I was so scared at first. I didn't know how to parent him. He had a lot of energy. I got thrust into the world of special education as a parent, and I quickly learned there was an area of law out there that I felt was underrepresented. And so I hung my shingle, my own law firm, and decided to branch out on my own. I created a website, ockidslaw.com. I thought it sounded really cool at the time, and I still have it now, almost 15 years later. So I started off in my house with a dream, and I really didn't have any experience as a special education lawyer, but I had a passion. I met Edwin because I was prosecuting one of his clients in court. We became friends, and he was working for another organization, and we created a partnership eventually, and he came over and became my official partner. And that was about 10 or so years ago when he actually officially came over. When I sit across from families and teens that are struggling with depression and anxiety and finding your identity, I get it. I not only get it as a mom and as an attorney, but I get it because I've been there myself. A few years ago, I was going through a difficult time with one of my children, and I was worried a lot, and I was living in an absolute state of fear. And I realized that I was not going to God with my fears and my anxieties and my worries. I was trying to handle it all on my own. And for a long time, I was lost and scared. And I finally decided to just give everything to Him. I was tired. I was tired of sitting each night with my face in my pillow crying and worried. But I realized it was because I wasn't coming to Him. I wasn't spending time with Him. And so I just drastically changed the way I approached God and the way I related to Him. I started spending quality time with Him every day. I'd carve out at least an hour every morning to pray. I even started taking time to walk each day at the park and come into His presence and just be thankful for Him and pray my deepest prayers to Him and talk to Him like He is my Father that loves me. And it was when I radically changed the way I related to God, and I started spending time in His Word and coming into prayer every day, focused just on Him and His relationship with me. I started to hear from Him, and I had a sense of peace that surpasses all understanding. It didn't make sense to me, but I started to not live in fear anymore, and those anxieties were lifted. And throughout that time, as I started to transition in my relationship with the Lord, God laid upon my heart that He wanted me to go to seminary. And I remember thinking, really? Me? I am the last person that would, first of all, go back to school, but to theological seminary. I have this history, if you don't recall, God, of everything I've been through. I didn't think I was equipped. And He quickly reminded me I wasn't, but God Himself is, and He was going to equip me with everything that I needed. And I did, for the first few weeks, kind of rationalize, let me take care of a couple things here and there, and then I'll go. And He so beautifully said, no, this is what I'm asking you to do right now, and you're going to do it, and you're going to step out in faith, and I'll take care of everything else. And I enrolled in seminary, and it's been almost 1.5 years, and I'm almost halfway through my seminary experience. And it has been such a beautiful time for me. And You know, throughout that time, he laid upon my heart to write Girlfriend Revival. And I have written about 3 books over the last 15 years, and they've never felt inspired by God. They never really went anywhere. I was just writing to write. I was writing my story because I knew in my heart that God wanted me to tell my story, to use the experiences of my life to help women, to inspire them, to give them the confidence to take a step of faith, even in tragedy, even in the worst of circumstances, that you can move beyond even the scariest moments of our life, and we can find beautiful, beautiful love and success, and we can find that our dreams will come true. And as I sat down to write the book, I had so many stories that I wanted to tell, but I couldn't think of how I would start the book off. But I quickly was drawn to that same red wagon, that same first experience that I had running away as a 5-year-old, and the beauty of that lesson for me. And as I pondered that and I thought about that story, and I remembered as I walked around the block as a little girl and I was guided home from God, and that lesson of knowing that God was with me throughout every step of my journey. That same reality is true for my whole life. He's been there, he always will be, and when I get off course, he's going to be there to guide me back home. I wrote this book for women and young girls who are seeking to find their identity and being able to step out of their circumstances, whether it's from fear and anxieties and tragedies that they've walked through, to finding healing and living a life of faith and believing that what God says about us, that we were made in his image, that we are here for a purpose, and that we have a beautiful future, that we will be able to awaken our faith and step into our divine destiny.